You do not outguess an empire at sea. For decades, they believed that fleets decided wars with battleships and carriers, not men in windowless rooms staring at numbers. Admirals wagered steel and aviation fuel, not pencil shavings and coffee. Japan believed its naval codes were unbreakable, its operations invisible, its timing unknowable. The rule was simple: the enemy fights in the dark while you swing at shadows. Think about what that implies. If you can't see the strike, you can't defend your airfields. If you can't read the route, you can't place your submarines. If you can't predict the time, your fighters rise too late. And the Imperial Japanese Navy had reason for arrogance. After Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, after the fall of Singapore on February 15, 1942, after the humiliation in the Dutch East Indies, they believed the code JN-25 sealed their plans like steel. They mocked the idea that Americans, scattered and reeling, could keep pace, let alone crack the hidden pulses of a language wrapped in numbers. But in 1942, one man and one moment changed everything. You meet Commander Joseph John Rockefort at Station HYPO, the basement of Building 1 at Pearl Harbor. He's 41 years old, thin, bespectacled, with a worn bathrobe thrown over his uniform during overnight watches, a pipe wedged between teeth, and a stubborn streak that annoys superiors. He speaks Japanese. He knows telegraph keying quirks. He reads people as well as signals. He hates theatrics, loves clarity, and lives on black coffee and cigarettes. He leads a small crew, about 50 men and women, linguists, mathematicians, radio men, each working 12 to 18-hour shifts, ears pressed to static. Their target is JN-25, the main operational code of the Imperial Japanese Navy. It isn't a simple cipher. It's a layered system, a codebook with 5-digit groups, a superencipherment with additive tables, frequent changes. A fortress of numbers. Months of patient reconstruction follow. Hundreds of intercepted messages. Thousands of pencil marks. Endless crib hunts. You smell paper dust and stale coffee. You hear the drone of fans and the low click of typewriters. Strategically, the Pacific bleeds. In April 1942, the Doolittle raid stings Tokyo but changes nothing material. In May, the Battle of the Coral Sea halts a drive toward Port Moresby, 2 carriers damaged, USS Lexington lost, Shoho sunk, but neither side sees clearly. Japan plans a decisive blow, lure out the American carriers and annihilate them. The target, coded as AF, appears again and again in traffic. AF supplies low. AF requests fresh water. AF needs aviation fuel. What does AF mean? Rockefort says Midway. Midway Atoll, the hinge of the Central Pacific, 1,135 nautical miles northwest of Pearl Harbor. A coral speck with 2 airstrips. A refueling station. A listening post. If Japan seizes it, they project power toward Hawaii and threaten the West Coast supply lines. But Washington doubts. Some in OP-20G back east argue AF could be the Aleutians. Others hedge. The stakes are brutal. If you misread the target, you place carriers hundreds of miles away. You lose the war's last mobile reserve. Rockefort makes a decision. He will force proof. He will bait the enemy, in their own code. He faces the challenge: make Japan admit AF is Midway without firing a shot. He orders a deception on May 19, 1942. He calls Midway's station, send an unencrypted message reporting a critical failure. Midway's water distillation plant is inoperative. Fresh water needed. No code. Plain English. A deliberate leak. You wait. 12 hours. 20. 36. Radiomen in HYPO soak in static. On May 21, intercept. A Japanese message in JN-25, AF is short of water. The phrase lands like a hammer. AF is Midway. Rockefort does not celebrate. He works. He pushes the rotational possibilities of the current additive tables, reconstructs 10 to 15% more of the system, and begins to see dates. He tells Admiral Nimitz, the attack will begin around June 4, 1942. He gives estimated force composition, for fleet carriers, Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, Hiryu, plus battleships, cruisers, destroyers, transport. He gives approach vectors, a northern diversion toward the Aleutians, the main body advancing from the west-northwest. He gives times, carriers launch pre-dawn to strike Midway at first light, around 0430 to 0500 local. Nimitz trusts him. He makes a radical choice. With only 3 carriers available, Enterprise, CV-6, Hornet, CV-8, and the hastily repaired Yorktown, CV-5, patched in 72 hours with 1,400-yard workers, he will ambush the ambushers. He will place Task Force 16 and 17 northeast of Midway, 200 to 300 miles from where the Japanese believe the Americans are, with submarines on a line stretching 120 miles. June 3, 1942. 0900, Midway's patrol bombers, Catalinas, spot elements of the invasion force. Signals match HYPO's predictions. June 4, 0430. Japanese carriers launch 108 aircraft, Aichi D-3 Vals, and Nakajima B-5N, Kates, escorted by Mitsubishi A-6M, Zeros. The sky over Midway shudders. Sirens. The echo of bombs. Fuel tanks flare. Sand and coral shrapnel spit across the airfield. You smell aviation gasoline and burning rubber. The first wave damages hangars and strikes the runways, but it fails to crater them beyond use. At 0700, the Japanese fleet commander, Vice Admiral Chuchi Nagumo, faces a choice: launch a second strike on Midway or rearm with anti-ship torpedoes for the American carriers he doesn't believe are nearby. HYPO's forecasts put the American carriers within range. He delays. He orders bombs to be replaced with torpedoes. Then a radio update from the first wave: Midway's defenses are intact, runways usable. He reverses. He orders rearm back to bombs. The hangar decks become chaos. Armorers roll bombs off carts, torpedoes back into racks. Fuel lines snake. The decks sweat with gasoline. Munitions lie unsecured. Timing stretches. Minutes matter. Meanwhile, American torpedo squadrons launch. 0710, from Midway, VMSB 241 pushes SBD Dauntless dive bombers toward the carriers, VMTB 241 sends ill-suited SB-2U Vindicators and TBF Avengers with torpedoes. From the carriers, VT-8 from Hornet, 15 TBD Devastators, flies into the teeth of the Japanese combat air patrol. Slow. Underpowered. No fighter escort. 0930, 18,000 feet. 12,000, 9,000. They drop altitude to attack height, 150 feet. Countdown. 1,500 yards. 1,200 yards. 900. 600. Zeros tear into them. Machine gun chatter. Cowl flashes. The sea erupts with waterspouts. VT-8 dies almost to a man. 15 launched. 14 shot down. One survivor, Ensign George Gay, floating in the ocean, watching the battle through a life raft. VT-6 from Enterprise attacks next. VT-3 from Yorktown follows. Devastators fall. Torpedoes miss, run too slow, or snap under fire. Casualty rates climb over 40%. You feel despair. Failure seems certain. The torpedo attacks achieve nothing but they pull the Zeros down, low and scattered, away from the ceiling. Above, 3 American dive bomber squadrons wander, nearly lost. Commander C. Wade McCluskey leads Enterprise's Scouting Squadron 6 and Bombing Squadron 6. They fly 33 SBDs. They miss the Japanese fleet at the expected position. Fuel runs thin. He makes a choice: follow a lone Japanese destroyer, Erasure, sprinting north after depth-charging the submarine USS Nautilus. 100 miles. 80, 50. The wake points like an arrow. 10:20, cloud breaks. The carriers appear below like playing cards laid on blue felt: Akagi, Kaga, Soryu. The deck traffic is insanity: bomb trolleys, fuel hoses, aircraft kneeling to be refueled, munitions unstrapped. A perfect, accidental trap created by Nagumo's indecision. McCluskey orders the split. VS-6 rolls onto Kaga. VB-6 peels for Akagi. At the same time, Yorktown's VB-3 under Max Leslie arrives overhead, vectored by radar and HYPO's timing. 37 dive bombers total. Altitude, 15,000 feet. Countdown. 10,000. 8,000. 6,000. Dive brakes howl. 4,000. 3,000. Bomb release at 2,000 feet. Bombs fall. The first sticks hit Kaga, 4 direct hits. One near amidships punches through the hangar deck, detonates fuel, ignites stacked bombs. A second bloom joins the first. Shockwaves snap deck plates. Planes burn on the deck, 18 to 20 destroyed in seconds. On Akagi, a single 1,000-pound bomb near the mid-deck ignites gasoline lines, flashes through the nerve center, and traps damage control teams. Soryu takes 3 hits. Fires run like rivers. The explosions rip through steel. Sailors choke on smoke. By 10:25, 3 carriers are mortally wounded. Kaga and Soryu will sink by afternoon. Akagi will be abandoned by midnight and scuttled. Hiryu survives for now, 20 miles north, and launches counterstrikes. 10:58, Hiryu's first wave finds Yorktown. Bombs slam the flight deck. Another wave carries torpedoes. 2 hits port side. Yorktown lists. Damage control fights. She stays afloat. Then another torpedo attack hits, and she loses power. Later, a submarine, I-168, will finish her with torpedoes on June 6. But the prize remains: the Japanese offense is broken. In station HYPO, the room is quiet. The signals taper. Reports drip in: carrier names, damage estimates, sinking times. Rockefort listens. He knows what this means. He moves to the next problem: will Japan attempt a second thrust? He strips new traffic. He watches times. He keeps working. He does not leave his desk. If you find this kind of untold story and military detail as fascinating as we do, we'd be honored if you'd hit that subscribe button. We believe these stories of courage, sacrifice, and genius deserve to be told. And by subscribing, you help us ensure they aren't forgotten. What they didn't know was how completely the math had changed. For sunk carriers, Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, Hiryu, represent 2/3 of the striking power of the Kido Butai. Roughly 248 aircraft lost. Hundreds of veteran pilots gone, irreplaceable in the short term. In the Navy Ministry, shock and silence. Admiral Yamamoto stares at the reports. The Empire's best, annihilated in one morning. In Tokyo, planners scramble. Aircrew training pipelines extend from months to years. Carrier construction schedules become fantasy. Escort and reconnaissance doctrine undergo emergency revisions, more dispersed formations, reconsideration of hangar fueling practices, CAP rotations adjusted, strike sequencing rethought. For the United States, the strategic balance flips. Nimitz moves from reaction to initiative. Guadalcanal becomes possible within 2 months, August 7, 1942, because enemy carriers cannot dominate the slot. Submarines press harder into supply lines knowing air coverage is weaker. Enterprise survives, Hornet fights on until Santa Cruz, new carriers, Essex-class, arrive in 1943. American industrial momentum pairs with intelligence clarity. The true impact wouldn't be understood until the pattern repeats. Station-based codebreakers in HYPO and OP-20G, later FRUPAC, keep unspooling JN-25 variants. Operations like the Maruyama route to Guadalcanal, the reinforcement runs, the Rabaul bomber schedules, many become predictable, blunted, or intercepted. And then the killer detail. By mid-1943, Japanese attempts to rebuild JN-25 fail to close the window fully, and Allied SIGINT supports the island-hopping arc through the Marshalls, the Carolines, the Marianas. Enemy reaction includes policy changes on message length and encryption turnover rates. But a code is only as strong as the operators using it. Human rhythms, repeated pleasantries, routine weather reports, these create cribs. Rockefort knew that. He taught it. 1,000 tiny habits beat one big secret. So return to the human element. Joseph J. Rockefort grew up in St. Louis, learned Japanese as a young officer, served in the 1929-1932 cryptanalytic program, and carried scars from Pearl Harbor. In Pearl Harbor's basement, he led a small team, men like Lieutenant Commander Edwin Layton, linguist Thomas Dyer, radio men whose names rarely show up in headlines, to a plain miracle of persistence. After Midway, Rockefort was sidelined from HYPO in mid-1942, the victim of bureaucratic politics. He moved to a dry dock command and kept working. He rarely spoke about what he had done. In 1986, long after his death in 1976, the Navy finally awarded him the Distinguished Service Medal, acknowledging the quiet man who bent the war's arc. Remember the pilots too. Lieutenant Commander John C. Waldron of VT-8, age 41, led 15 Devastators straight at 4 carriers. 14 were shot down. He died in the attack. Ensign George Gay, age 25, bobbed on the ocean and watched Kaga burn. Commander C. Wade McCluskey, age 40, made a single navigational guess that changed history. Lieutenant Commander Max Leslie, age 34, flew without functioning bomb cranks and still put steel on target. They are names, not abstractions. To this day, the lesson stands: you break an empire's blade by breaking its calendar. You win by seeing first. Why does it matter now? Because arrogance still laughs at the quiet worker. Because wars are decided not just by what you build, but by what you know and how you decide. And because you carry the memory forward. If this story moved you, please hit that like button. Every click tells the algorithm this piece of history is worth remembering. We're dedicated to rescuing these forgotten stories from the archives. If you want to join us on this mission, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment with your city or state, and tell us if someone in your family served. Thank you for ensuring that Joseph J. Rockefort and the 50 men and women of Station HYPO do not disappear into silence. They deserve to be remembered.